She laughed first, that low, quiet kind of laugh that doesn't need sound to be felt. It slid through the silence between us and stayed there, right where words usually go. I hadn't meant to say it like that. My girlfriend's on her way, I'd blurted out, trying to make things simple. But nothing about her ever stayed simple for long. She tilted her head, eyes still on the window where the late afternoon light gathered in gold streaks across her hair. Then let's not waste time pretending, she said. There wasn't a hint of irony in her voice. Just calm. Like she already knew something about me I hadn't figured out yet. Her name was Claire. 46, though she carried herself like time had learned to bend around her, not the other way around. Every movement she made had purpose, from the way she poured her coffee to the way she looked at you, long enough to make you forget what you were supposed to say next. I was just there to drop off a file, something small, work-related, unimportant. But she'd invited me to stay a minute. Said the coffee was fresh. Said it like a secret. The apartment smelled faintly of orange peel and rain, windows cracked open just enough to let the weather in. She moved around the counter, her fingers brushing the back of a chair, her perfume trailing after her like a sentence left unfinished. I told myself I wasn't staring. But my hands were in my pockets because I didn't know what else to do with them. You're quiet today, she said finally. I'm just trying not to say the wrong thing. She murmured, pouring coffee into a second mug. That's usually how the wrong things start, by trying too hard not to. Her tone wasn't teasing. It was soft, almost kind. But something about it made the air thinner between us. When she handed me the cup, her fingers brushed mine, lightly, carelessly, but not by accident. It was a small thing, yet it sent a strange pulse through my chest, the kind that didn't feel like attraction exactly, more like recognition. I wanted to speak, to say anything that would make the moment less fragile, less alive. But she looked up just then, and for a heartbeat, I forgot how to breathe. Her eyes weren't asking for anything. They were just there, open, honest, maybe a little tired. I thought about how many times she must have looked at someone like that and been misunderstood. I told her my girlfriend's on her way, I said again, because silence had started to sound too much like confession. Yes, she said softly, setting her cup down. And yet you're still here. She was close now, close enough that I could see the faint line of freckles across her collarbone, the way her lips pressed together, as if holding back words. Something shifted between us, quiet but irreversible. The kind of shift you feel in the back of your throat. I didn't touch her. Didn't move. But I knew, if I did, she wouldn't stop me. And that knowing scared me more than the thought of leaving. A car horn blared outside, sharp and sudden. It broke the silence clean in half. She stepped back, the moment collapsing like breath in cold air. That'll be her, she said, not looking at me. Her voice was steady, but her hands, they weren't. I turned toward the door, but before I reached it, she said quietly, "Don't worry. We'll keep pretending next time." The door opened. The hallway light spilled in. And for the first time that day, I wished my girlfriend would take her time. It had been a week since that afternoon, but I'd replayed it more times than I'd admit. Every word, every pause, every almost touch. I told myself I was just being polite when I went back, that I'd forgotten to have her sign something. But when she opened the door, barefoot and holding a book like I'd interrupted something private, that lie evaporated instantly. "Back already?" she asked, smiling faintly. "I needed your signature." Her gaze dipped to the folder in my hand. "You really didn't." The way she said it wasn't accusing. Just knowing. Her living room looked different this time, softer somehow. A lamp on instead of daylight. A half-finished glass of wine on the table. Jazz humming low in the background. She looked tired, but in the kind of way that made her more real, the edges of her strength showing through. "I didn't mean to interrupt," I said. "You didn't." She gestured toward the couch. "Sit." I hesitated, but she was already sitting beside me, not across, close enough that I could smell the faint trace of citrus again, mixed with something warmer, like paper and candle wax. We sat in that half space between formality and something else. Do you always tell people you're taken before they can ask? She said suddenly, eyes still on the book she'd closed but hadn't put down. Maybe. Makes things easier. Easier for who? I didn't answer. She laughed softly, then leaned back. You remind me of someone I used to know. He thought that if he stayed quiet long enough, the right thing would stop feeling wrong. Did it? She shook her head. No. It just got quieter. Her words hung between us, and I could feel the weight of them pressing down on everything unsaid. I don't know when I started noticing the details, the way she brushed her hair behind her ear when she was thinking, the faint tremor in her fingers when she set her glass down, the way she inhaled before saying something she didn't want to. She caught me looking once. Didn't flinch, didn't look away. Just smiled, small, tired, but devastating. You're too young to look at someone like that, she murmured. Too young, or just not supposed to? Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Instead, she reached for my hand briefly, barely, and her thumb traced a line across my knuckles. The touch was feather-light, but it felt like everything in me went still. Her eyes lifted to mine. We shouldn't, she whispered. I know. Then why aren't you moving? I didn't have an answer. The clock ticked behind us. The song changed. When she finally stood, she lingered, her hand brushing my shoulder, her breath warm against my temple as she reached for the light switch. Next time, she said quietly, don't bring work as an excuse. The room went dark except for the window light. And for a moment neither of us left. She opened the door before I even knocked. You're early, she said, half smiling, like she'd been waiting anyway. I was nearby. I lied. Her eyebrow arched, a quiet really? But she stepped aside. Inside, the air smelled like rain and something baking. There was music again, softer this time, a single piano note repeating like a heartbeat. I told myself I wasn't here for her. But the lie didn't sound convincing even in my own head. We talked about nothing at first, weather, deadlines, some vague plan for the weekend. But her eyes kept flicking toward the window, like she was expecting something. Or someone. You okay? I asked. She nodded too quickly. My friend was supposed to stop by. Oh. I pretended to check my phone, though I didn't want to. Should I? No. Stay. She said it quietly. Too fast. The word stay hung between us like a dare either of us meant to make. Her phone buzzed on the counter, once, twice. She glanced at it, didn't answer. The screen lit up with a name I didn't recognize. Is that her? Yeah, she murmured, locking the screen. She's running late. Her voice wavered just enough to make me wonder if that was true. The storm outside picked up, tapping against the windows. I stood beside her, close enough that my arm brushed hers. Static caught on my sleeve, or maybe it was just nerves. Do you ever think about? I stopped. She looked up, eyes steady. About what? About how people see things. What they'd say if they walked in right now. She finished for me, smiling faintly. They'd say it looks wrong. I exhaled, half a laugh, half surrender. And is it? I don't know, she said. Ask me when you stop looking at me like that. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was alive. The kind of quiet that hums under your skin. She reached past me for her cup, her shoulder brushing my chest. It was barely contact, but it stole my balance anyway. Her breath caught, I heard it. She froze. Then the sound of keys, from the hallway. She moved first, stepping back fast, almost spilling the coffee. I turned toward the door, heart hammering. But the footsteps passed. A neighbor, maybe? Not her friend. We both exhaled at once, the same shaky breath. Guess that would have been hard to explain, I said, voice low. She looked at me then, and something broke open, that guarded calm she wore like armor. You think I care what people would say? I think you care too much, I said. And I'm starting to. Her eyes softened. Don't. But when I stepped closer, she didn't move away. We stood there, not touching, barely breathing, and it felt like everything we'd been avoiding had finally caught up. The lights flickered once from the storm. For a second, she leaned in, almost. Her lips brushed air, nothing more. Then she turned her face, just slightly, whispering, "Next time, I might not stop." And neither of us pretended to disagree. The night it happened, nothing about it was planned. I told myself I wouldn't go back, that the line between us had already blurred enough. But her message came late, short, simple. "Can you drop by? It's important." I told myself it was about work again. About anything else. But when she opened the door, barefoot, hair unpinned, wearing a sweater that slipped off one shoulder, I knew we'd run out of reasons. The rain was heavier this time. You could hear it pressing against the glass, steady, relentless. She moved to close the window, and I stepped forward to help, my hand catching the frame beside hers. Neither of us spoke. Her sleeve brushed my wrist. When she turned toward me, her breath met mine, not close enough to touch, but close enough that I could feel the tremor in it. "Claire," I said quietly, "if you keep calling me over, one day I won't leave." She smiled, barely. "Then stop pretending you will." That was when the room changed, or maybe it was us. The air thickened, the kind of stillness that comes before a storm breaks. "I don't want to hurt anyone," I said. "Then why are you here?" "Because I can't stop thinking about you." She inhaled sharply, as if she'd been waiting to hear it, and dreading it. "I thought I could control this," she whispered. "I thought I was older, smarter, but you—" Her voice broke. I reached up before I could stop myself, brushing a strand of hair from her face. My fingers grazed her cheek, slow, deliberate. She didn't pull away. Her eyes closed for half a second, just long enough to make it feel like a promise. "Do you think this is some kind of fantasy?" she said, voice trembling. "Because it's not. I've been through this before, people getting too close, regretting it later. I won't survive another almost." "Then don't make it almost." That made her look at me, really look. "You're too young to know what that means," she said. "Maybe. But I know what it feels like." She stepped closer. I could smell the faint trace of her perfume, the warmth of her skin. Her hand lifted, stopped, then rested lightly against my chest. Her touch was soft, uncertain, but it anchored me in place. "I shouldn't," she said. "I know. But I want to." A flash of lightning filled the room, white, blinding, and for a second, everything was frozen, her face inches from mine, her hand clutching my shirt, my breath tangled with hers. The thunder followed, loud and shaking the walls. And in the pause between them, she whispered something I almost didn't catch. "Tell me to stop." I didn't. But before I could speak, her phone rang, sharp, breaking through the storm. She stepped back, the spell shattering, her voice barely steady. Don't move." And then she turned toward the sound, leaving the air between us burning, unfinished. The phone call lasted less than a minute. Her voice was low, quiet, too calm to be real. When she hung up, she didn't look at me right away. She stood by the counter, hands still gripping the phone like it had something to confess. "Was that her?" I asked. Claire's shoulders tightened. "Your girlfriend?" she said, the words slow, careful. "Yeah." She nodded once, as if confirming something to herself. "She called me." The room seemed to shrink all at once. "She what?" "She called," she repeated. "Earlier this week. Said she found my number in your phone. Asked if we were." She stopped, then exhaled. I told her no. "You lied?" Her eyes finally met mine. "Would you rather I hadn't?" I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. The storm outside had softened into a steady drizzle, a quiet that made every heartbeat sound louder. "She said she trusts you," Claire added, almost to herself. "Said she just needed to be sure." There was a sadness in her tone I hadn't heard before. Not jealousy. Not anger. Something heavier. "Why didn't you tell me?" I said. "Because it shouldn't matter." Because I shouldn't be in this. She ran a hand through her hair, turning away from me. Her sweater slipped down her arm again, exposing the faint curve of her shoulder, a small, human imperfection that made her seem more fragile than ever. I didn't want to be the reason someone started doubting you, she whispered. But maybe I already am. I took a step toward her. She didn't move. Claire, don't. Her voice broke this time. You don't get to make this sound innocent anymore. She turned, finally, and the look on her face stopped me cold. Not anger, not guilt, but something rawer. I thought I could handle this, she said. That I could keep it light. But every time you leave, I wait. For a message. A sound. Something that means you haven't forgotten me yet. I felt it, the truth of it, deep enough that I couldn't speak. She stepped closer, so close I could see the fine tremor in her hands. I lied to her, she said again, voice shaking now. But I didn't lie to myself. I want you here. And I hate that I do. Her confession hung between us, thick, unbearable. I reached for her, not to pull her in, but to steady her. My hand brushed her arm, and she flinched, breath catching, then exhaled, slow, deliberate, like she just decided something dangerous. She met my gaze, eyes glossy but unflinching. You need to choose, she said. Not later. Now. Choose what? Whether this stays a secret, or becomes something we can't take back. Her hand slid from my chest to my wrist, lingering, a touch both warning and invitation. Then she let go. And for the first time, I realized, the next move was mine. It was late, too late for excuses. The city outside had gone quiet, wrapped in that blue-gray stillness that only comes after rain. Inside, her apartment was half dark, half golden from the single lamp in the corner. I was supposed to leave. I knew that. My keys were still in my hand. But my body wouldn't move. She stood across the room, barefoot again, arms folded like she was holding herself together. You didn't answer, she said finally. When I asked you to choose. I don't know how. Yes, you do. Her voice was calm, but her eyes weren't. They flickered between hope, fear, and something close to surrender. I took a step closer. She didn't move. Another step, and she did. Barely. A breath forward. Claire, I said quietly. If I stay, you'll hate me for it. She shook her head. No. I'll hate myself if you go. Her honesty hit like a blow, soft but undeniable. We were close now. Too close. I could see the small pulse at her throat, the faint tremor in her jaw as she tried not to look at my mouth. My fingers itched to reach for her, to smooth the worry from her face, to close the space that had been haunting both of us for weeks. Tell me what you want me to do, I whispered. Her eyes met mine, and for once, she didn't look away. Stop thinking, she said. And then she stepped forward. Her hand found the side of my neck, tentative at first, her fingers warm, her thumb trembling just enough to betray her calm. I froze, caught somewhere between breathing and breaking. Every sound disappeared, no rain, no hum, just the quiet rush of blood in my ears. She leaned in, slow, unhurried, until her forehead rested against mine. We didn't move. Didn't need to. The closeness itself was enough to make my chest ache. I told myself this would ruin us, she murmured. But maybe it's worse pretending it hasn't already. I swallowed hard. Then don't pretend. It happened slowly, the decision, the stillness, the breath that drew us in. Her fingers slid down my arm, catching my wrist, holding me there. But just before the space between us disappeared completely, she stopped. Eyes open, voice low. You have to mean it. I do. No, she said, her voice breaking. Not tonight. Tomorrow. When there's nothing left to hide behind. The air between us pulsed. One more inch, and everything would change. And then she stepped back. For a long moment neither of us spoke. Finally she whispered, Now you know. I nodded, unable to speak, because she was right, I did. We both did. The truth wasn't in the words we'd said, it was in what we hadn't done. And somehow, that felt heavier than if we had. Morning came quietly, all soft light and gray skies. I hadn't planned to come back. After that night, I thought leaving would make it easier, that distance could steady the parts of me she'd unsettled. But it hadn't. It only made everything louder. When she opened the door, she looked surprised, and tired in that beautiful, honest way. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "I know." We stood in the doorway for a long moment, like neither of us was sure what world we were in now, the one before the storm, or the one after. She turned first, letting me in. The air inside was still warm, faintly scented with coffee and rain. No music this time. No pretense. Just her, standing in the same sweater from before, sleeves pushed to her elbows. "I didn't sleep much," she said softly. "Me either." "Thinking?" "Trying not to." That made her smile, small, real. The kind that reminded me why all of this had started in the first place. "I keep replaying what you said," she murmured. "That if you stayed, I'd hate you for it." "Do you?" She shook her head slowly. "No. I think I just hate how much I wanted you to stay." I took a breath, one of those long, steady ones meant to hold back something bigger. Then I stepped closer. "I'm not here to make promises," I said. "Or excuses. I just don't want this to end with pretending again." Her gaze softened. "It doesn't have to." For the first time, we didn't hesitate. When I reached for her, she didn't flinch or pull away. Her hand found mine, warm, deliberate, and her thumb traced small circles against my palm. The simple contact felt heavier than anything we'd done before. She leaned into me, slowly, until her forehead rested against my chest. I could feel her exhale, that quiet surrender of someone who's been holding their breath too long. No words. Just closeness. Her hair brushed against my chin. My fingers found the back of her neck, light, steady. Time didn't stop, but it softened. After a while, she whispered, "People won't understand." "Then we don't owe them understanding," I said. She laughed, quiet, disbelieving, but full of something hopeful. "You really think it could work?" "I don't know," I admitted. "But I know it already does right now." She tilted her head, looking up at me, eyes tired but brighter than before. "Then let's not waste time pretending." Her words, the same ones she'd said the first day, sounded different now. Not a challenge. Not a risk. Just truth. I kissed her forehead, slow and certain, and she smiled against me. We didn't talk after that. We didn't need to. Some stories don't end with declarations, just the quiet decision to stay. And we stayed.